This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Now Donald Trump is demanding that CBS's broadcast license, be pulled by the FCC because he doesn't like the 60 Minutes interview that he refused to participate in, breaking a 56-year tradition of candidates for the highest office appearing with 60 Minutes to do an interview. Well, he didn't want to do that, maybe because he's a convicted felon, and he's got other problems right now. And so rather than do that, he ceded the stage to Kamala Harris, who gladly took it. Just like I think she should do a debate without Donald Trump because he refuses to do a third debate. Again, a breach of norms. That's all Donald Trump runs on, is breach of norms. But now he's calling for the FCC to pull the license because he doesn't like the fact that there was some editing that went on and it wasn't just a live, raw feed of Kamala Harris being interviewed. When does Donald Trump ever do a live, raw feed? And when he does, he just comes off as unhinged. I mean, CBS News, in doing an interview, is allowed to do some editing. Donald Trump doesn't like the fact that they edited it. They edited her to make her look like she's a competent future commander-in-chief. That's how you think editing works? I mean, come on. And so the FCC's chair, she's been very busy lately. This is somebody who you probably never heard about, the Federal Communications Commission and the chair of the FCC before. But you're hearing a lot about her lately because MAGA's gone unhinged trying to remove licenses from everybody exercising the First Amendment rights. So the chairman or the head of the FCC, Jessica Rosenworcel, has had to come out twice in the last 48 hours. Once when MAGA in Florida tried to have a cease and desist letter go to TV stations in Florida who ran First Amendment ads, political ads, by women who have been negatively impacted by the 6-week abortion ban, who weren't able to get abortions even though they've been diagnosed with brain cancer, when they ran ads to support a ballot initiative to amend the Florida Constitution Amendment to enshrine in the Florida Constitution the right of a woman to choose. MAGA and DeSantis wrote cease and desist letters and threatened to pull their broadcast license. And the FCC stepped in. The same Jessica Rosenworcel said, first of all, the First Amendment is the cornerstone of our democracy. That should be celebrated. We don't yank licenses in this society because you don't like the content of the information that's going out there. And now she's had to issue another one because Donald Trump is railing against CBS and trying to destabilize them and saying they should lose their license. And here's what she had to say about that. She said, the federal agency does not and will not revoke licenses for broadcast stations simply because a political candidate disagrees with or dislikes content or coverage. She goes on, while repeated attacks against broadcast stations by the former president may now be familiar, these threats against free speech are serious and should not be ignored. As I've said before, Rosenworcel said, the First Amendment is a cornerstone of our democracy. She's now front and center. And this is consistent. What are we watching? The de-evolution of Donald Trump as he circles the drain of history. And I didn't think there was a lower blow that he could land, but he has hit rock bottom and he's already dug a hole. I mean, right now, he and MAGA are also leading a destabilizing campaign against FEMA. There are actually people in the MAGA world who are attacking and calling for the death and assassination of meteorologists because they think if they kill the meteorologists, that'll stop the hurricanes. Marjorie Taylor Greene telling people that before it was Jewish space lasers, and now it's the Democrats control the weather. All right? And you got Michael Flynn, who should be in jail if he wasn't pardoned by Donald Trump, a disgraced former officer in the military, part of the coup for Donald Trump, part of the war room at the Willard Hotel trying to overthrow democracy. I shouldn't be having to report about Michael Flynn and what he has to say. He should be standing in line in a payphone at a prison with a dime with all the other prisoners waiting to make his phone call. But I got to hear Michael Flynn say, they're manipulating the weather. It's obvious. We know they are. The Democrats want to hurt Donald Trump. And now MAGA has taken up the cause and they're calling for the death and assassination of meteorologists. Let's kill the FCC chair people. Let's go after the meteorologists. Let's put all the scientists in jail. What does that sound like? Soviet Union, dictatorships, fascism, and applause and an embrace of Jessica Rosenworcel, the FCC chairman, to come out and fight back against this. If Donald Trump wanted to make his message known to the American people, then he should have got on 60 Minutes along with Kamala Harris. I mean, they would have been separate interviews. But it's the first time since I was a child, 56 years. They've always had every president and candidate for president has gone on 60 Minutes but Donald Trump. And then he sits on the sidelines and attacks it. You want to hear what he had to say? I know you don't, but I think it's important for context. Here's Donald Trump railing against 60 Minutes, calling for their head on a pike. And you know, when he calls for people's head on a pike, you know what happens? It activates the sleeper cell of crazy in the MAGA party who do bad things and pick up their Second Amendment rights. And then we got another story I got to tell and analyze, because they didn't like her interview with Bill Whitaker. This is what Trump had to say. 60 Minutes is a major part of the news organization of CBS, which has just created the greatest fraud in broadcast history. You know what the greatest fraud in broadcast history is? The Apprentice, and the fact that that was used as a basis to become a president of the United States. CBS should lose its license, and it should be bid out to the highest bidder, and as should all other broadcast licenses, because they're just as corrupt as CBS and maybe even worse. You know, strung together all these caps and all these crazy things. You know what? If you want to speak to the American people, go on 60 Minutes. You want to speak to the American people, you want to have 70 million or 80 million or 100 million pairs of eyes on you, then do a third debate, you coward. Talk about a chicken, and of course, Kamala Harris did the right thing. She says, well, you wouldn't go on 60 Minutes. I did. Why don't you debate me? We got time. You said anywhere, anytime. Okay, now, tomorrow, I'm ready. Typically at the end of a long day, I used to go for a scotch and soda or some other alcoholic beverage. But I'm sick of all the calories, nasty hangovers, bloating, and other negative health implications. Frankly, a glass of scotch and soda just doesn't cut it anymore. That's why I'm obsessed with Sol's new out-of-office THC gummies. Perfectly microdosed to get you blissed, not blitzed. This podcast is sponsored by Sol. Sol's new out-of-office gummies are perfectly microdosed with hemp-derived THC and CBD to give any day that chillin' on the beach vibe. Did you know you can now buy hemp-derived THC products in all 50 states? Because of the 2018 Farm Bill, hemp-derived THC is now legal and accessible nationwide. I can't believe I didn't know you could buy THC products online like this. The out-of-office gummies help you get that much-needed me time at the end of the day, or even during the day. They're convenient and delicious. Out-of-office gummies give you that warm, fuzzy, euphoric microdose feeling without sending you to the moon. You can go for a jog, watch your favorite TV show, or head out to a party, whatever floats your boat. Sometimes getting high can cause its own stress. Being too high is a thing. Microdoses of THC can keep you feeling good without the anxious thoughts. Sol was founded 5 years ago by brother and sister duo Mike and Angie Lee. Mike is a former world-ranked professional boxer, and Angie is an author and professional speaker who had the desire to create natural alternatives to medication that tackle problems they deal with themselves, like sleeplessness, anxiety, focus, and pain. And that's not all Sol's got. Whether you're looking for a sleep aid, enhanced focus, or pain relief, Sol has all your wellness needs covered. And Sol's products are grown right here in the USA, organically farmed and gluten-free. This holiday season, give the gift of Sol. Head to GetSol.com and use code LegalAF for 30% off your order. That's 30% off your order using code LegalAF. One last time, GetSol.com and code LegalAF for 30% off. He wants the last word in the closing argument to elect Donald Trump again, to be J.D. Vance and all of his crazy cats and dogs. And I know people in my life that had an abortion. And I won't. Now you're going to learn why I just became a vice presidential candidate, because I'm willing to do anything Donald Trump tells me to do. And I'm not going to acknowledge the outcome of the election from 2020 in 2024. So this new gambit, go after the meteorologists, go after the FCC, go after broadcast news, go after broadcast television. It's consistent. He's been calling the press the enemy of the people, using the language of dictators like Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin since the beginning, since 2016. And then his crowd whipped up into a frenzy, a violent frenzy. We've seen what happens when they get whipped up into a violent frenzy and there's not enough police around them. They attack the Capitol and try to burn it to the ground. When he starts chanting and talking about the enemy of the people, lose their licenses, fake weather news, what do? They turn around and they start chanting, lock them up, and worse, with menacing glares at the press. The press. It's the cornerstone of our democracy. It's the Fourth Republic. It's what separate, I don't know about man and beast, but it's what separates democracy from dictatorship, a free press. You should embrace them. You may not agree with them. You don't have to pick up every newspaper and agree with every article, but don't make them the enemy of the people. Freedom of the press is in the First Amendment. It's right there. It's Amendment 1. I know MAGA likes to focus on Amendment 2, the Second Amendment, but it is the Second Amendment. There is a First Amendment. It was the first thing that was on the minds of the framers of the Constitution. Freedom of the press, right? Freedom of religion. No government promotion of religion. Separation of church and state, all buried in the First Amendment. There are entire year-long courses on the First Amendment in law school. There's people whose entire careers are focused on defending the First Amendment appropriately and defending the right of press and journalists and MeidasTouch and podcasters to speak the way I'm speaking without censorship, right? I mean, one of the reasons we're out here on YouTube, that's where the people are. That's where people are getting their news from. I can't tell you how many people that I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to meet on the streets of New York, where I practice law and do a lot of my recording, who recognize me from the show, Popok, and we have a conversation. And I always have a conversation. And I want to have that intimate human connection with people from Legal AF and from the MeidasTouch network. And they tell me the same thing. We don't get our news from anywhere else but on YouTube and MeidasTouch and or Legal AF. That's it. It's the only one we can trust. Can't take my license away. I don't have an FCC license. This is what do you call it? Guerrilla radio. This is when they used to ride around in a van with a low transmission of a radio station out of the back of a van, right? Giving people the truth. That's what we're doing. I'm riding around your neighborhood right now in a van down by the river, broadcasting with low wattage. This content, it's important because we're up against the dictator. This isn't violent political rhetoric. This is transparent observation. No smoke or sunshine. CBS shouldn't lose its law license. It should win the Pulitzer Prize. We continue to follow it all. Space lasers and blaming the Jews and Democrats on affecting the weather. I made a joke when I was on the Brothers podcast last night, filling in a bit for Ben Meiselas. I said, sorry I'm late. I was conjuring up a volcano eruption for the Jewish holidays. And all it's doing is put people at risk. The Republican policies, such as they are, put people at risk. They're attacking transgender Americans, people who identify as transgender. They have a $65 million ad campaign going on right now to bash, degrade fellow Americans. I don't know what church they went to. I don't know what civics class they went to, but these are Americans. They bleed red. They're red, white, and blue. Their sexual orientation or no sexual orientation is none of your damn business. It doesn't affect you. People who are transgender or identify that way aren't pedophiles. They're not shooting up schools. So they go after and try to disenfranchise and punch down to those in society that need our help and our helping hand. That's what gospel teaches. You reach down and help somebody. You don't just stare at them and attack them in order to get an extra vote and scare the crap out of people. Going after FEMA, making your crazies, and without criticism. Where is Donald Trump telling people at some sort of press conference, look, it's getting out of hand. Don't attack FEMA. They're doing their civic duty. They're doing their job. They're doing a great job. They're helping people. All this misinformation and disinformation that's being promulgated by my people, stop. He doesn't say that. He likes it. He wants it. He wants us at each other's throats because that's how he thinks he's going to get elected. Teach him that he's wrong, that going after fellow Americans is not a path to the White House. But you have to deny them that path. You and all your friends and your phone banks, and you're knocking on the doors and you're getting out the vote. So I'm going to continue to follow it all right here on the MeidasTouch Network, of course, Legal AF, our podcast, and our new Legal AF MTN channel that we formed on YouTube just in time for the election. We're going to get 200,000 subscribers before this weekend, but only with your help. Subscribe, free. Click, done. Go get some friends. Have them subscribe. And you're going to love the content we're bringing there every day. We're doing 5 videos a day, plus podcasts, plus new groups like Court Accountability joining us there on Legal AF MTN. So until my next content, my next hot take, this is Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.